I used to wake up to the sound of an alarm clock, buzzing urgently, pulling me into a day already full of meetings, deadlines, and expectations. It felt like life was always pushing forward, and I was just trying to keep up. Maybe you've known that feeling too. Back then, I often wondered what happens when the routine stops, when you don't have to be anywhere by 9 a.m. Will life feel empty? Will I lose my sense of confidence? For a tame and for an open consideration, I imagined long days of boredom, of wandering around the house with nothing to do, no one meeting me, no reason to get out of bed early. But here's the truth I never expected. Retirement isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of a different kind of rhythm. A slower one, a quieter one, but also a deeper one. These days, I wake up not to noise, but to sunlight slipping through the curtains. No rushing, no stress, just space. And in that space, I've discovered something I never had time for before, myself. Today, I want to take you through a real day in my retired life. Not a vacation day, not a special event, just a simple Tuesday. But that's the point, because sometimes it's in the ordinary that we find the most meaning. So whether you're already retired, just starting to think about it, or still years away, but curious about what it might feel like, I invite you to come with me. I'm not here to give you a list of what to do. I'm here to show you what life can look like when the clock no longer runs your day, and when you get to decide what matters most. Let's begin. Most mornings now begin the same way, gently. I usually wake up around 7 a.m., not because an alarm tells me to, but simply because my body is ready. There's something quietly beautiful about opening your eyes to soft sunlight instead of noise. No buzzing clock, no race to get somewhere, just light filtering through the curtains, reminding me that I've been given another day. I lie there for a moment. I take a deep breath, and in that pause, I remind myself, this day belongs to me. My first joy of the morning is always coffee. Not just drinking it, but the whole ritual of making it. I move slowly to the kitchen, where the house is still and the quiet feels like a warm blanket. I brew a fresh pot and pour it into my favorite mug, the old one with the chipped handle. It's not perfect, but it holds memories of a beach trip with my daughter years ago. That alone makes it precious. With my coffee in hand, I sit by the window. From there, I can see the garden. Sometimes a bird or two drops in for breakfast. I don't scroll mindlessly or rush to check the news. Instead, I might read a message from one of my children, open a book, or simply sit in silence watching the breeze stir the leaves. This quiet time, it's not empty. It's full of presence, of breath, of being. For decades, my mornings were for everyone else. Kids, work, errands. But now, they're mine. And I've come to believe we all deserve a little time that's just for us. Not to achieve, not to impress, but to reconnect with who we are when the world is quiet. Even just 10 minutes like this, tea in hand, sunlight on your face, can shift everything. Because when you begin the day with grace, the rest of it tends to follow. After a slow and quiet start to my morning, my body gently reminds me, it's time for something nourishing, not rushed, not grabbed on the go, but chosen with care. These days, breakfast has become more than just a meal. It's a quiet act of self-respect. Most mornings, I keep it simple. A bowl of plain Greek yogurt, a handful of fresh blueberries, a sprinkle of walnuts, and sometimes just a drizzle of local honey. It's light, full of goodness, and makes me feel cared for by me. Funny how a bowl of yogurt can carry that much meaning. There was a time when breakfast meant standing at the counter, eating while packing lunches or checking emails. But now, I sit down, I chew slowly, I taste every bite, and with each spoonful, I remind myself, you still matter. After I've eaten, I usually step outside and walk into one of the quietest joys of my retired life, my garden. It's a small space, a few flower beds, some herbs, and a patch of strawberries that surprise me each summer. But oh, how this little patch has changed the way I experience time. I water the petunias. I check on the soil. Sometimes I talk to the plants, just a soft hello. And you know what? It brings peace. Gardening has become a form of moving meditation for me, a way to stay grounded, literally. My hands are in the dirt, my breath slows, and for a little while, the world softens. I used to think I needed a big yard or lots of time to grow something. But you don't. A pot of basil on your windowsill, a tomato vine on your porch. That's enough. Because what really matters is the act of caring. Watching something grow under your hands reminds you that life, even in its quietest seasons, keeps moving forward. And so do you. So, if you're wondering where to start, maybe start here. With one small plant, one mindful breakfast, one moment to nourish your body and reconnect with the earth beneath your feet. In these simple things, you might just find something you didn't even know you were missing. There's something sacred about walking. Not as a workout, not to burn calories, but simply as a way to be alive, to be present. A few times a week, I lace up my old walking shoes and head toward the small hills just outside town. They're not grand mountains or scenic trails you'd see on postcards, just gentle slopes, familiar trees, the crunch of gravel on the foot. But to me, they feel like quiet companions. When I walk alone, I listen, not to music, but to the wind moving through the leaves, to birds calling in the distance, to the soft rhythm of my own breath. In those moments, I'm not trying to get anywhere. I'm just being. Each step is a kind of moving meditation, one that doesn't ask for perfection, just presence. And sometimes I walk with a friend. The pace is slow and the conversation is gentle. There's something about walking side by side that allows for a different kind of honesty, a deeper connection that feels less like talking and more like being heard. People often ask, what's the point of exercising at this age? My answer is simple. It's not to look younger. It's to stay independent, to have the strength to get out of bed, cook your favorite soup, hug your grandkids, or climb a few stairs without fear. Movement is a gift, not just for the body, but for the soul. You don't need to hike miles or join a gym. 5 minutes of walking around the block, a little stretching in the morning sun, or even dancing to your favorite old song in the kitchen. It all counts. The goal isn't to keep up with your younger self. It's to keep going with yourself, with kindness, with intention. So ask yourself, when was the last time you moved just to feel alive? Because even the smallest steps can carry you back to your center. There was a time when cooking felt like a duty, a checklist I had to complete after a long day, often for someone else. I'd rush through it, thinking more about what came next than what was in front of me. But retirement has changed that. Now, cooking is no longer an obligation. it's a gift I give to myself. A quiet, nourishing ritual that says, you matter. These days, I keep things simple. I've grown fond of light, colorful meals. My go-to lunch, a warm bowl of slow-cooked chicken stew that's been simmering gently since morning. And alongside it, fresh spring rolls made with crisp lettuce from the garden, canned tuna, ripe avocado, and slices of cucumber. Sometimes, I add cherry tomatoes and sweet snap peas, just for that satisfying crunch. It's not about being a gourmet chef. It's about being present. I set the table even when I'm alone. I use a real plate, pour a glass of water, and take my time. There's something deeply comforting about honoring mealtime, not as a break between tasks, but as an act of self-care. Cooking has become a way I care for myself, not just to feed my body, but to nurture my independence. My favorite food in Cancer Roll was the event of the city. I still have dinner colored on names. That's not the case of a leader. I still have the density of a leader. I'm still on a clean leader with the wool. So, if you've ever felt like eating alone isn't worth the effort, I gently invite you to reconsider. What if the act of cooking wasn't just about filling a stomach, but about affirming your worth? Because every meal you make for yourself is a quiet celebration of resilience, of dignity, of love. What's the last thing you cooked for you? One of the things I've come to appreciate in retirement is how even the simplest task can become a meaningful part of the day, if I slow down enough to notice. Take grocery shopping, for example. I used to dread it, but now I pick a quiet time, usually around 1 p.m., when the store is calm and the aisles feel spacious. I walk slowly, read labels, choose my fruits like I'm selecting gifts. There's no rush, just the quiet joy of caring for myself through the choices I make. Then there are the little projects at home. A few weeks ago, I decided to install new flooring in the bedroom, something I'd never done before. I watched YouTube tutorials, made mistakes, laughed at myself, and kept going. It took longer than expected, but when I stepped onto that smooth floor I'd laid myself, I felt proud. And it's not just big changes. Organizing the closet, planting marigolds, hanging a photo of my grandchildren. Each of these moments adds a thread to the fabric of my day. They might seem small, but they carry weight. They remind me that I'm still creating, still shaping my space and my story. I've realized life doesn't need to be grand to be fulfilling. It just needs to feel like it matters. And it does, especially when we bring care and attention to what we do. So I ask you, what's one small project you've been putting off? Not because it's urgent, but because it would feel good to complete. Sometimes, the smallest victories can bring the deepest sense of purpose. One of the quiet truths of retirement is this: time opens up, but connection, that still takes intention. These days, I've made it a habit to reach out on purpose. A lunch with an old friend, even just a stroll through the park together. We talk about the kids, our memories from work, the little worries that keep us up some nights. There's something healing about those conversations, like the soul exhales. It reminds me that being seen and heard is still as essential now as it was in our busiest years. And then there's the joy of staying close to my children and grandchildren. I call them often, not just to say hi, but to ask about their lives. Really ask. Sometimes we chat on FaceTime while I stir soup, and my granddaughter shows me her drawing or reads me a story. There's something magical in that moment. A bridge across generations, built from shared time. I also make it a point to reconnect with former colleagues. A coffee here and there, maybe twice a year. But it's not about rehashing old projects. It's about remembering who I was back then and keeping a piece of that version of myself alive. Those friendships hold memories no one else shares, and that matters. Because connection isn't just about feeling less lonely. It's about remembering that we still belong, that we are still part of someone's story, and they are part of ours. So let me ask you, who could you call today? A friend from long ago? A neighbor? A grandchild? That small effort to reach out, it could brighten both your day and theirs. As the sun begins to dip below the trees, there's a soft invitation in the air, a whisper that says, it's time to slow down. Evenings now are gentle, and intentionally so. I usually fix myself a light dinner, something simple, like a fresh salad, tossed with greens from the garden, roasted mushrooms, and a drizzle of my favorite lemon-dash tahini dressing. Sometimes I even light a candle at the table, not for romance, but for presence. With soft jazz playing in the background, I allow the stillness to seep in as I chew slowly and listen to what my body needs. After dinner, I don't rush into screens or notifications. Instead, I might make a cup of herbal tea and sit with a puzzle or a quiet documentary, something that stretches the mind without overwhelming it. And so, on some nights, I call a loved one just to say, sleep well. It's a small gesture, but somehow it wraps the day in kindness. I've also learned the value of protecting this final part of the day, turning down the noise, limiting the blue light, choosing rest over stimulation. Because this quiet isn't emptiness, it's restoration. It's space for the soul to breathe. You see, our evenings can either drain us or refill us. And when we slow down with care, we're not just preparing for sleep. We're honoring the rhythm of a well-lived day. So tonight, I invite you to pause before bed. Light a candle, sip some tea. Think about one thing that brought you peace today. And let that thought carry you gently into rest. Before I close my eyes each night, I take a quiet moment. Just me, the soft hum of the room, and the thoughts that linger after the day has passed. Some nights, I write in a small journal. Other times, I simply sit still and ask myself, what made today meaningful? What gave me peace, even for a moment? It might be something simple, a ripe strawberry picked from the garden, a kind message from my granddaughter, or the way the sun lit up the living room floor. This nightly reflection isn't about grand achievements. It's about presence, about noticing the good, even when the day was messy, or quiet, or not what I expected. Gratitude, I've learned, isn't about perfection. It's about perspective. I've made a habit of thanking the little things, my steady breath, a body that still carries me, the memory of laughter shared, even if only over the phone. This small ritual shifts everything. It softens the sharp edges of the day and reminds me, I am here, and this is enough. When I finally settle into bed, I don't set an alarm. There's no race to win tomorrow. My body knows when to rest. And when sleep comes, it's not from exhaustion, but from the quiet contentment of having lived this day with care. If you've never ended a day with gratitude, maybe tonight is a good night to start. Just one thought, One moment, one thank you whispered in the dark. Sometimes, that's all it takes to feel whole. So here we are, at the close of a simple day. Not perfect, not extraordinary, but quietly complete. That's the thing no one told me about retirement, how full life can feel when you stop chasing and start savoring. When the morning coffee becomes a moment of peace, not a jolt to get going. When the garden, the laughter of a grandchild, or a quiet walk with a friend become the highlights, not the in-between. Retirement isn't the end of the story. It's a softer beginning. A chapter written more slowly, with fewer lines, but deeper meaning. You don't have to travel the world or master a new language to feel alive. Sometimes, all it takes is lighting a candle at dinner, or sitting beside your dog as the sun goes down, or hearing your daughter's voice say, "I love you," on the phone. I'd love to hear what your retired life looks like. What brings you joy? What fills your mornings, your afternoons, your heart? Maybe it's a special coffee mug, a tomato plant that finally gave fruit, or the sound of your grandchild reading aloud. Let's make this a space where we remind each other that we're not alone, that slow living is still rich living. Leave a comment below. Share one thing, just one, to make your retired life feel meaningful. And remember, every sunrise is a gift. Another day to laugh, to love, to connect, to be here fully